Shipmates, sentinels, and scallywags of the Reach, tonight's spotlight shines on the Deckhand. If the helmsman steers and the boarder disrupts, then Deckhand is the muscle that keeps the ship alive. Cannons blazing, boarders repelled, loot gathered, if you're not defending and firing, you're done for. By the end of this guide, you'll know how to lock down your ship, bring the hurt, and keep your crew afloat through the storm. Why this role matters. If you don't shoot the guns and you don't defend your ship, you're screwed. Plain and simple. As the Deckhand, you have three main jobs: shoot the guns, defend the ship, and repair the ship. Without these, you have no chance. Your mission is simple: fire cannons, stop boarders, and when needed, hop off and loot POIs or scan for threats. This means that you need to be making sure that you are outputting more damage and healing faster than the enemy team, and also make sure that you are effectively completing POIs quickly, and also make sure that anytime you have downtime, hop on a freaking scanner, go out with a probe, go look at your surroundings so people don't jump you. Let's split deckhands into two different flavors. You've got your dedicated defender and you've got your flex hand. Your dedicated defender is going to be a little bit more focused for PvP and ship defense from boarders, whereas your flex hand is going to be more focused on generally just being useful on the ship, probably a little bit more repair focused, and going to be spending more time on guns. Both of these roles are great. Both roles do need to be on guns. Both roles also do need to defend. They're very similar, but it's just going to be slightly dependent on what kind of kit you bring in for these roles. Now, let's talk prospectors. As we said, we've got our two different roles that we're going to run through. We've got defenders and flex hands, right? So as I go through, I'm going to tell you which one's going to be better for which. First off, we've got Sal. Sal is really strong for repairs. She has a ship-only ability that allows her to swap out and recycle items and re-roll items. She is very necessary on a ship. She's a great helmsman, but also a great ship hand, deckhand, whatever you want to call it. I would definitely put her more in the flex hand role. She's not bad at PvP, but she's definitely better at being a repair and cannons focused deckhand, if that makes sense. Samo, his ability only is active on the ship, and he is able to see enemies through walls and then gets a full health regen when you take out boarders. So Samo is definitely focused on ship defense. Obviously, he can still hop on guns. Obviously, he can repair, but his abilities generally focus on PvP. Samo is a great character if you want to run something that's more of a PvP defensive build. Venture. Venture, as I said in the last video, is a pretty simple, easy character to pick up, but he's a great deckhand. He's warned when somebody's behind him, and he doesn't have oxygen loss. So if the rest of your ship is dying because of oxygen loss, you never have to worry about that. So Venture is definitely an easy option to pick. He's not strong anywhere, but he's also pretty good across the board. Venture, I would say, probably falls kind of halfway between the two roles. Again, he can kind of be used for everything. Moffs with a teleport reload is one of the strongest ship defenders when it comes to PvP defense. He can basically stay invisible forever, and then whatever his secondary item is useful infinitely as well. So say he has rocks or impact can or blast can, he can just repeatedly throw those, teleport, turn invis, throw them, teleport, turn invis, go back and punch you in the ass. Moffs is kind of broken in the current state with teleport reload, so he's one of the strongest ship defenders for PvP. Last but not least, Kay. Kay is primarily meant to be an adventurer and a boarder, but Kay is also pretty useful on ships because she has a 10-meter reach. So she's a pretty good flex or ship hand. Her ability to reach far is nice. You can reach the reactor when it's being overloaded from 10 meters out, meaning that you don't have to stand in the little ring of fire right there and die to fire as you're deactivating the overload. You can swap out cannons before arriving at them. So just generally interacting with things on the ship is really nice as Kay. She's good for playing flex, but most likely I wouldn't necessarily play her as a dedicated ship hand. She's kind of in its own category, which in the last video I mentioned, if you guys want me to do a video on flex, that's the last role that I haven't covered. Obviously, you can kind of assume what flex is. It's a little bit of everything, but if you want me to do a dedicated flex video, let me know. Kay is probably one of the strongest flex players in my opinion. On to loadout breakdown. As with pretty much all of the other different ship roles, you're primarily going to want a short and a long range weapon. So as for the short range, your strongest option is going to be the sonic boom until the upcoming nerf, followed by the sidelong and the double whammy. So these are your three strong short range weapons. The sonic boom is not getting a very strong nerf, so it's still going to be usable, but it's just going to bring it more in line with these three. So again, sonic boom, sidelong, great for ship defense, great for close range. The sidelong goes through cover, so especially if you're playing Samo's wall hacks plus sidelong and maybe a shield wall, disgusting. You got to try it out. I'm telling you, it's amazing. The double whammy is also great as a ship hand because if you're playing a ship like the Scout that only has 2 guns, sometimes all the guns are taken and you can just step out the door to the side and shoot. or if you lose cannon angle for a second, you can step outside the door to shoot, and you can still be putting out damage on the enemy ship when there isn't good cannon range or when all the cannons are taken up. So it's definitely another good option. Still kind of close range, but useful in other ways as well. As for long range, as I keep saying, the beam rifle wins. The beam rifle is the best long range weapon in the game as long as you can hit your shots, followed by the MK2. Since you are doing a lot of the POIs and also doing more short range and less long range, you could also swap this out for something like the Painter if you want more PvE damage, or maybe even the Doctor if you want to be helpful to your team and don't trust yourself to hit as many shots. As for equipment, you're kind of going to balance between border and helmsman kits that we talked about. So you want something that's going to be either good for defensive PvP, or you're going to want something that's good for defensive repair. So we're going to break this into two categories. For defensive repair, things like repair drone and foam canisters are going to be great. You can put out fires, you can repair the ship without having to be in the area. You can just toss it and forget. It's awesome, right? Beyond that, you can also use sensor traps as a defensive item, which is nice. Very, very recommended. Beyond that, it's also, in my opinion, having movement on a ship is never a bad thing. And so sometimes running Thunder Dash as a defensive player is really nice because you can get around your ship a lot faster, especially if you don't have that 10-meter reach on K. As for more offensive defense items, you can always run, especially if you're running Moths, running something like Blast Can, Impact Can, or Rock with a teleport reload is great. Teleport reload as a ship hand is always going to be strong in its current setting if they don't nerf it. And beyond that, Shield Wall is also another wonderful option. Shield Wall is very strong. Attack Drone is definitely one of the other things that you could throw in here. Attack Drone is both defensive and offensive. It can be used in POIs. It can be used for borders. If somebody blows open a door, you can just toss an Attack Drone down, back up a little bit, and wait for them to push in. So I definitely would recommend considering Attack Drone. And so again, you can kind of be flexible with all these. I know I just gave you most of the loadout kits, but again, it's kind of dependent on whether or not you want to be a defensive PvP character or a defensive repair character. So right now, on screen, I'm going to put up both sections for you to see what kind of falls into which category. I'm going to show you defensive items that you're going to want to use, offensive items that you're going to want to use for ship hand, and then I'm also going to give you the recommended kit loadout one more time since I spieled for a bit. So there you go. As for playstyling and positioning, if you're deckhand, you live on the ship. Guns first, defense second. If you've got downtime, make sure you're looting POIs and running scans. Really, what you need to be doing is primarily focusing on trying to take out with cannons as much of the effectiveness of your enemy team as possible. So don't just shoot randomly at their ship. Try to target hard points. Try to target cannons. Take out their effectiveness with your cannons from range while your border and your helmsman are managing the rest of the fight. If you see someone coming, or your helmsman calls out, or your border calls out that a border is arriving, go for a shock field. Hit that shock before they get on ship. If they're too far out still, step outside with a beam rifle, snipe them out of the air before they get to your ship. If you are playing border defense, if the border gets on your ship, you've already lost the first part of your job. As the border defender, part of your job is not letting them get on your ship. So you should, again, be outside defending or using a shock field if possible as the PvP dedicated border defender. If you are playing the repair engineer, whatever you want to call it, the flex hand, again, you're going to be more dedicated to guns, staying inside, repairing. So if anytime you lose cannon angle, repair the ship, then hop back on guns. If you're playing border defense, make sure that you're jumping outside to take care of borders before they get to you, hitting shock fields, getting ice, hopping on cannons when you have time for it. But again, that's why this kind of splits into two. One person is defending from borders, one person is shooting. Anytime either one has time to help with the other role, you swap or both jump on one thing when it's needed. So both are flexing a little bit, but again, you're going to have kits that are slightly designed more towards one side of either PvP or repair side of deckhand. We're going to go on to a couple tips and tricks. Again, one of the most important things for you to think about as a gunner is if you have extra guns lying around, what is the most effective for the range that you're fighting? If you're fighting a team up close and you have a plasma beam, you should probably throw that on. If you're fighting long range, you probably should swap to a sniper instead of a scattergun, right? So obviously this seems pretty common sense, but it's inevitable. I just have to mention it. Swap your ship weapons based on the range and based on situations and fight. Tip number 2, make sure that you're always clearing borders before getting greedy. Sometimes you're going to get too stuck on cannon. You're just like, I just want to keep shooting. I just want to keep shooting. And someone's going to sneak up behind you and get you. So make sure you're listening to callouts. Make sure you're listening to audio. So if you hear somebody board your ship, it's going to make noise. They're going to blow open a door. You're going to hear a door open. You're going to hear footsteps. Make sure you're paying attention to your surroundings, your audio, and callouts from your team. Don't get too committed to one role. Make sure you are multitasking and doing a little bit of everything unless you need to be doing a lot of one thing in that moment. Another thing, know when and where to place your clamps. I would highly recommend not putting clamps on the front of your ship because if you ram, they will activate. So either find a place that's far enough back on your ship that rams won't activate them, or just don't place them until they're needed unless you're willing to waste all your clamp jets and accidentally fly out of a fight because someone rammed you. As a deckhand, make sure that you are committed to doing what is needed of you at all times. Be flexible. Deckhand is the most flexible role. That wraps up our core crew roles, but the circus never ends. Let me know if you guys want to see a committed guide for the flex role. I know we've covered a lot of that information, but I can do one on its own. And that, dear crew, is the deckhand, guardian of the guns, bane of borders, and the backbone of the battle. If you enjoy the act, don't forget to like and subscribe, share your own deckhand tips in the comments, and keep an eye out for the next Wildgate 101 showcase. Until then, keep your cannons hot and your clamps tight. As always, see you in the Reach. Thanks.